Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Sell Your Vision. As always, my name is Moti Elkaim, and I'm the host of this podcast series. We have one goal in mind with this podcast, and that is to bring you the powerful insight from founders who successfully raised in today's market and from investors who know what it takes to persuade them to invest in your vision. And today, I am delighted to have with us Mike James Ross, who is the Senior Vice President at La Maison Simons. He's also an investor with Staircase Ventures, and he's the author of The Surprising Psychology of High Performers. So we're going to have a lot of angles coming in from Mike on how to craft your story the right way and how to deliver a high-performing pitch. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a real pleasure, Moti. Thank you for having me on the show.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, I always like to start with the hard questions first and then go to the easiest one.
Let's do it.
Delivering a pitch, building a pitch is not an easy task for many, many founders.
Mm-hmm.
If you would come across a founder and you would have to give him or her one insight, just one, that you think is fundamental for their success, what would that insight be?
Well, that's a hard question. That is a hard question. And for the audience, know that we haven't prepped any of this, right? So I'll do my best to answer kind of on the fly. One piece of advice, I mean, as you said, Moti, right? I wrote a book, right? Intention, The Surprising Psychology of High Performers. I think the short answer for me is be intentional. But what does that actually mean, right? And I think that, there's a lot of good ideas out there. I think that in investing, often you're looking for obviously a quality of an idea, but much, much more you're looking for the quality of the founder, right? And I think founders get caught up in explaining what they're doing much more than they should be explaining who they are and why they're doing it. And perhaps most importantly, why that's important to them, right? I believe in this idea. I'm passionate about this is much more powerful than I've got a really cool idea.
I actually love the way you're phrasing it because I've heard many people say before, we invest in the founder first, so they need to talk about themselves, not just the technology. But you added another flavor to it. You said why they believe it, why they care about this particular problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I don't know. You tell me if this anecdote works or this metaphor works a little bit, right? So I've done a lot of different stuff. Those of you who are big fans of the show Suits know that it's based on my life, right? So I used to be a former lawyer, a bunch of other things. I'm married to a woman named Rachel. But I worked in a law firm for a while, and there's a bunch of different executive assistants, all did different things. There was one who loved the opera, right? Like she was just incredibly passionate about the opera, and the cubicle where she worked was covered in posters from operas she's seen and things like that. And she was always listening to the opera and this sort of stuff. And one day somebody said, "Hey, Mike, I've got these free tickets to go to the opera. Can you use them?" And I said, "No, but I know someone who can." And I gave them to her. And people talk about, I don't know, The Secret and manifesting and all this stuff as if the universe listens to you in some kind of metaphysical way. I'm not sure that I agree with that. But I do know that if anybody who knew that woman had any opportunity to help her do more opera stuff, they would have, right? We want to help people follow their passions, right? Like investors want to make money. Obviously, that's a big thing. But you'd be surprised at how much in those conversations, the fact that the founder is passionate and driven and really, really interested in the thing that they're pitching makes such a difference. It makes such a difference.
It's phenomenal because it's actually a very good example. And I'm so glad you brought it up because at the end of the day, the way to differentiate yourself, it's kind of your positioning. So she was known as the Oprah lady.
Exactly.
There was nothing, I'm sure she had many other layers to her personality and she was smart, brilliant, whatever it is. But her positioning was stuck as Oprah.
Yes.
And whenever you thought of Oprah, boom, she was there. And I think founders today are failing to say, okay, what is my one true value? What is my positioning that will make the investor in front of me remember that when you say Moti, you think this. When you say Mike, you think that.
Yeah.
And that is a very powerful thing to achieve.
Founder branding, right? You think this identity, you think this thing. And again, like, it's so, well, I'm going to say it's so easy, but it's also very hard, right? But it's so easy these days to define yourself as this because there's all these channels by which you can expose yourself to the world, right? And you can say, these are the things that I do, right? And stay on message for that and stuff. Obviously you want people who have technical skill sets. You want people who understand the market, things like this. But all of that is almost secondary to someone who is in the zone of genius, I guess is the technical terminology for this. But it's not just the zone of genius. I think it's the zone of passion as well.
I couldn't agree more. I'm working with a lot of founders every year, helping them craft their pitches. And there is one thing that I see that really relates to what you're saying right now. Many of them are coming in with the same language. We are here to redefine so and so, reinvent so and so, rethink so and so. And when you're using the same language, you're killing yourself because you're taking your unique proposition, your unique value, your energy, your passion,
Of course.
and you just sound like everyone else. And I'm
Yep.
going back to the Oprah example because if I would come into the office and no one had Oprah stuff on the wall, I would just have to look left and right and I wouldn't know where to go. And that's
Yeah.
what happens when everyone sounds the same.
Exactly. And I think that it really is that, and the thing I would say is that lies in your control, right? I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people mistake. And if you allow me, I get a bit philosophical, right?
Of course.
In the sense that I think that a lot of people think, okay, well, I don't really have that passion, right? And as if they're waiting for like the lightning bolt to strike them, right? As if, sort of you're waiting for something to come along. But like if you are doing, I don't know, optimizing home cleaning services, right? Okay, maybe you wake up one morning, you're not passionate about the optimization of home cleaning services, but my God, you better get passionate about it because you're going to spend a ton of your time working on it. And if you cannot get passionate about it, then I would be asking myself, why is it that I'm really focused on this problem, right? Now, there's all sorts of aspects to it. You may not be passionate about home cleaning. You may be passionate about optimization. You may see this as a real interesting problem to try and pull apart. I mean, giddy up. But
Right.
I personally believe, and this is a lot of my philosophy, is that intentionality, a lot of it comes from choosing to get passionate. Do you know what I mean? Like it sounds kind of funny to say, right? But you can actually choose to say, you know what, I'm going to pour myself, all my focus against this problem. I'm going to become the world's leading expert in optimizing of home cleaning services. And I'm going to find the aspects of this problem that I find super interesting to pull apart. Now, maybe I'm not a design guy, right? So I'm going to hire somebody to do design for me. I'm not passionate about design, but I'm going to hire a passionate designer. But this is the oh my gosh. And in those conversations with investors, if you're the opera person for whatever it is that you're doing, it's a night and day conversation.
And this is fascinating. At the end of the day, if I hear you correctly and it resonates, passion is almost like a muscle.
Yes.
You have to work it out because none of us were born, knowing that we're going to start a company or solve a problem.
Right.
It came our way.
Yeah.
And when it came our way, we decided, you know what? It bugged me once, it bugged me twice, it bugged me 3 times. Now I'm going to do something about it.
Exactly.
And then the more you pour yourself into it, you kind of almost train yourself to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. It's like, it's funny, sort of, one of the kind of the working titles that got left on the cutting room floor for the book was Choose to Choose. Because I think for a lot of us, we're not making the conscious decision to be participants in our life. We're waiting for somebody to tell us, either someone around us or this kind of lightning bolt of, oh my gosh, I've discovered. We talk about discovering, finding your passion. Create your passion, right? Make a choice. Say, this is the thing are you stuck doing it for the rest of your life? No, of course you can reinvent yourself. And I think that's a really important skill set in today's ever-changing market. But while you're doing the optimization of home cleaning services, get excited about it and get yourself excited about it.
The more we talk, the more I'm starting to refine some of the talking points that I'm getting from VCs and founders, because again, you're adding a very unique flavor to it, because I hear a lot of VC partners, investors are saying, look, we're looking for passion. We're looking for grit. We're looking for, a sense of hustle,
Ownership.
that
Yeah.
hustle mentality. But none of that will be able to come across unless you have intent.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that what they were failing to say until now, until this conversation with you, is that look, if you have the intent, everything else will follow. The passion will follow. The grit will follow.
Yeah.
The genuine approach to your startup will follow. So investors like yourself and others are looking for intent.
Yes, exactly. I think that's exactly right. And the somewhat nice thing about this, right, is that not only does it help your pitch be better, but you'll just be a happier person, right? We are human beings, right? And the whole book, I'm going to plug it again, right? The book Intention is really about how fundamental it is to us as humans to make decisions, to empower ourselves, to choose, right? And that intention that you bring, it's not just going to make you a better at pitching, but if you're passionate about optimizing home cleaning services, and I don't know why I'm banging on about this, right? I don't know, it popped in my mind. But if you're passionate about optimizing home cleaning services, then that 3 a.m. moment when you're, I don't know, scrubbing the Excel or you're redoing that, whatever it is, that the hard times, the valley of despair you get as a founder, you have that rock, that foundation below you that is, I actually give a shit about this problem, rather than, I think there's a market here. Because if it's, I think there's a market here, it's hard to maintain that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'd love to share a personal story with you. I was putting my kid to sleep the other day, and he told me, Dad, I know that after you put me to sleep, you go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wake up in the morning, I see you're already working.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm an obsessed dad. I give every single minute of the day to my kids, but he asked me, don't you get tired?
Mm.
And I said, no, because I'm in it.
Yeah.
I cannot explain it to you, but I'm in it. I find so much joy in it that, I'm just in it.
But what a beautiful lesson that is for your kid, right? I think that, my daughter often says like, oh, you work so hard, it must be tough. And it's like there's something that she's learning in school or something like that like work is a negative thing.
Right.
And I'm always like, whoa, time out there. I love what I do, right? I love it. I love spending time with you. And obviously, just like you, I try to be as involved and present to dad as I can, but I love what I work on. And so finding opportunities to do more of it is great. And again, so not only, I think, Moti, what we're getting to is not only are we helping people to make their pitches better, but we're going to help them become better parents.
100%. You know what? If we can achieve both of them, that will be amazing. Let's talk about your book for a second, Intention,
Sure.
The Surprising Psychology of High Performers. What can we take from that book to the pitching process that founders are going through, which is not easy? You have to pitch to hundreds of investors before you get a yes. I just read an article from the founder of Canva. Everyone who's Canva today is very successful. She said, I pitched 150 times before I got my first yes.
That's amazing. I mean, look, I'm not the expert that you are, right? And I know that, having listened to the podcast, there's all sorts of people giving all sorts of different pieces of advice. I will add one little piece. It's not the whole thing, but I would add one little piece to build. Of course, we talked about intention, all that kind of stuff. I think the one thing that I think a lot of people get wrong in pitching is they think that to pitch is to talk. Whereas I believe that a big part of successful pitching is listening. Right? A lot of people think my job to pitch is I've got to come with my pages and I got to present, and they jump into it, right? As opposed to saying, well, what do you think about this problem? Right? What's your experience with this problem? And I know that that's a classic sales technique, right? Sell me a pen, all that kind of stuff. But pitching, just in the way that it's done, is so often focused. And especially people, I think after you do 150, you get really good at it, right? You have your pattern down and you get so dynamic with it that you can say to the investor, what do you want to know about? I love everything about this problem, right? I can talk about what is the piece that's interesting, that's challenging. What is your question? And I'm going to answer that question. And then everything else, the credibility level rises, right? If you can answer any question the person may have, like this person knows this business. And again, not to repeat myself, it ties back into that thing is you're so in it. It's your thing that you're like,
Right.
come at me with anything. Right. And that to me, the dynamic nature of good conversational pitches, for me at least, is a much more interesting thing than the blah, 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 blah.
100%. I love the way you phrase it again. Come at me with anything. What do you want to know about it? Because I know everything there is to know about it. I'm living it day to day.
Yeah.
What would you like to know about the space, the problem, the solution,
Yeah.
the risks?
And they may say, and often I'm thinking an investor will say, look, you tell me some stuff and I'll find it. But just the fact that you started with that is this kind of like, I'm here, I'm confident. And you may start talking and say, okay, good. Okay, but tell me more about this. And they're going to test you, right? That's the thing. They're going to test you on that.
Yeah.
You got to be ready.
That's phenomenal. It reminds me of, it's not pitching related, but it's a sales workshops we've done with one of the founders. She was pitching a high bid RFP to an enterprise. It was detrimental for her startup. She really wanted to win it. And she sent all the decks, all the information ahead of time, came to the meeting, 10 people stood in front of her. And we told her exactly what you just said. You said, you know what? Instead of coming into the meeting, starting rah-rah about you and your company, just tell them, look, I've sent you everything. You've read everything. I'm here to answer your questions. Tell me what you want to know.
Yeah.
That was the only session, and they told her that, where the founder came in and said, tell us what you want to know rather than dumping features and technology.
Yeah. It's such a power move. I've done that many times to try to again, RFP responses and say, look, I sent you the materials in advance. I'm not going to present anything. Let's just have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
How can I, and it's a different context, right? I'm not pitching, but if I professional services, how can I add value for you in this 30-minute conversation? It doesn't matter if I win the thing, right? You have a problem you're trying to solve. How can I help you just a little bit solve that problem today, right here, right now? And I'm going to do everything I can. I'm not going to hide anything. I'm not going to be like, oh, if you bought this, then you get more. No. We have 30 minutes. I'm going to do everything I can to deliver value for you in this short period of time. That's it.
How can I add value to you? Because it's an interesting play, because rather than being on the asking side, right? No one likes to be in the position where you ask for money, regardless of how talented you are. It positions you in an inferior position, right? In the ask position.
Yes, interesting.
But then you're changing the paradigm and you're shifting the questions to them. All of a sudden, they are now in it's an equal play at the table. You make it an equal play at the table.
Yeah. Very
phenomenal.
Cool.
Listen, I told you in our intro chat before we start recording that I think it's going to be a fresh perspective to what we've done that is different from what we've done so far. And I'm so happy that it is, because it is refreshing.
Right.
What else, if we have to summarize this session, because we are hitting the 20-minute mark, and we like to keep it concise for our audience. Is there anything else you'd like to tell founders out there who are about to craft their story and they are starting their journey?
I mean, beyond, look, let's do 3 top things, right? Former McKinsey consultant, right? There's always 3 things, right? So we'll do 2 we already did, and I'll add a bonus one. The 2 we already did was 1, be intentional, right? You be all in on that thing, become the expert, do that thing, make a choice to pour yourself into it and build, create, construct your passion. Don't find your passion, construct it. The second one would be listen, right? The best way to convince somebody of something is to listen to them. It's such a weird thing to say. It doesn't make any sense, but it is so powerful. If you want to convince somebody, listen to them, right? If you're talking more than 50% of the time, slow down. What are you hearing? What do you need? That kind of thing. And then the third thing I think is, I guess it kind of ties to that, but beyond that is just be curious, right? The world is this incredible, beautiful, amazing place. We get to interact with humans we've never met before. We get to engage with them. Just be curious and open your eyes. You're walking into the building of the big VC, what's happening outside? What's this? Like all of that stuff is all incredibly powerful tools for you to have really meaningful conversations with other people in a pitch context, right? But I live sort of beyond just that, but just that kind of open curiosity to life. That's a really interesting thing. And again, it's not just founder pitching, it's everything.
Mike, that was absolutely phenomenal. I want to thank you again for taking the time to be with me today and share your insights. I'm sure a lot of founders who are listening to this session, to this episode, are going to, drive it home with the powerful messaging, the powerful tips that you shared with them.
Listen, it's such a pleasure, Moti, and really anything I can do to be helpful, I'm happy to do it, man. I love what you're doing. Keep going.
Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers.